Good evening everyone, it's dark, but it's time. Tonight we're going to play book number 10 from Lone Wolf, which is book number 5 in the Magnakai series. Let's start with the story so far. You're the warrior Lone Wolf, last of the Kai Masters of Summerland and sole survivor of the massacre that destroyed your kin during a bitter war with your age-old enemies, the Dark Lords of Eljedad. Many centuries have passed since Sun Eagle, the first of your kind, established the Order of the Kai. Aided by the magicians of the sea, he completed a perilous quest to find 7 crystals of power known as the Lore Stones of Nixator. Upon their discovery, he unlocked a wisdom and strength that lay within both the Lore Stones and himself. Sun Eagle recorded the nature of his discoveries and his experiences in a great tome entitled The Book of the Magnakai. You have discovered this lost Kai treasure and have given a solemn pledge to restore the Kai to their former glory, thereby ensuring the security of your land in the years to come. However, your diligent study of this ancient book has enabled you to master only 3 of the 10 Magnakai disciplines. To fulfill your pledge, you must complete the quest first undertaken by Sun Eagle over 1,000 years ago. By doing so successfully, you too will acquire the power and wisdom of the Magnakai, which is held within the Lore Stone's crystal forms. Already your quest has taken you far from your northern homeland. Following in the footsteps of the first Sky Master, you journeyed to Desi and sought the help of the Elder Magi, the magicians who aided Sun Eagle on his quest long ago. There you learned that for centuries the Elder Magi had awaited your coming. An ancient Desi legends tells of the birth and rise to greatness of 2 Kor-Skarn, which means sons of the sun. One was named Ikar, which means eagle, and the other was named Skarn, which means wolf. A prophecy foretold that the Kor-Skarn will each come from the north to seek the counsel of the Elder Magi in order that they might fulfill a great quest. Although separated by several centuries, they will share one spirit, one purpose, and one destiny: to triumph over the champions of darkness in an age of great peril. The Elder Magi knew that you were Skarn, the wolf of Desi legend, and in keeping with their ancient vows, they promised to help you complete the Magnakai quest. In Elgin, the capital of Desi, you were tutored in the histories of Magnamond and received lessons in lore that you would have learned from the Kai Masters if only they, like you, had survived the murderous Dark Lord attack on the Kai Monastery 12 years ago. You were eager to learn all that your tutor, Lord Rimoa, could teach you in preparation for the next stage of your quest, but grim news from the Darklands cut short your tuition. In the Dark Lord city of Eljedad, a civil war erupted following your defeat of Hakon, Archlord of the Black City. After 5 years, the battle for the throne of Eljedad was finally won by a Dark Lord called Nyahag. The other Dark Lords, now united behind his new leader, were ordered to amass huge armies in preparation for the conquest of Magnamond. Swiftly their Giak legions grew in number, enabling Nyahag to launch a sweeping invasion that caught the Freelands unprepared. Several countries, after a brief but futile resistance, were completely overrun by Dark Lord armies. Others surrendered without fighting in the face of their determined might, and sadly, there were others still who chose to betray former friends and allies by joining the Dark Lord cause, in the misguided hope that they would share in the spoils of victory following the triumph of Dark Lord Nyahag. One such land was Vasagonia, a powerful desert realm to the north of the sea. Nyahag's armies mobilized and invaded the neighboring states of Kajern and Cloasia. Then they marched west through the Republic of Anari to join with Nyahag's horde as it rampaged across central Magnamond. The Elder Magi urged you to begin the quest for the 4th Lore Stone at once. The enemy armies were converging on the Anarian capital of Tau, and beneath that ancient city, the Lore Stone lay hidden. Aided by Mage Master Banadon, An old friend and fellow some lending, you set off in haste for Tau and arrive barely hours ahead of the enemy. Successfully, you made your descent and discovered the object of your quest, but on returning on the surface you found Tau transformed into a blazing inferno. Dark Lord Nahag and Zaken Kima, the ruler of Vesagonia, had learned of your presence and they were determined to destroy you at all costs. For days their engines of war had hurled fire and rock across the walls of Tau with devastating effect. Then a massive assault led by the Zaken himself breached the west gate and gained entry to the burning city. Armed with a weapon of awesome power, the evil Zaken sought you out and challenged you to a fight to the death. The struggle was desperate, but you emerged victorious and led the Anarians in a counterattack that cleared the city of the invading foe. The allies of Fenari arrived to raise the siege, and in the ensuing battle, the demoralized armies of Nahag and Kima were smashed and routed. Your defeat of Zaken Kima turned the tide of war decisively against the Dark Lord armies and paved the way for the liberation of the lands they had taken by force. But the sweet taste of victory turned sour when you discovered that Dark Lord Nahag had captured the last 3 remaining lore stones of Nixator. Lord Rimoa, with other members of the High Council of the Elder Magi, joined you in Tau to help formulate a plan of action. They had already received word from Prince Gregor, the ruler of Feru, that one of his patrols had found a man near the borders of the Elswamp. He was a Telestrian soldier who had escaped from the dread sea fortress of Torgar, where he had been in prison after being captured in battle. He had suffered terribly at the hands of the Dracarim, evil warriors in service of the Dark Lords, and when found he was so badly injured that he was almost unrecognizable. Before he died, he spoke of the 3 radiant gems filled with golden lights that had been brought to Torgar from the Dark Lord's city of Mosgoar.
We are now sure that what he saw was the arrival of the stolen lore stones,
said Rimoa, speaking on behalf of the High Council.
They radiate goodness so strong that Nahag could not hold them in the Darklands, but had to move them to Torgar. There his sorcerers, the Naziranim, are searching for the means to destroy them. The black arts of the Naziranim have grown powerful of late, and we fear they may achieve the task set them by Nahag. Therefore, we must act quickly and with utmost secrecy if the lore stones and the Magnakai quests are to be saved.
The Elder Magi had already made preparations for your secret journey to Eru, where, upon your arrival, Prince Gregor will help you to reach the grim city of Torgar. The thought of having to enter this terrible Dracarim stronghold fills you with dread, but your solemn pledge to destroy the Dark Lords and restore the Order of the Kai strengthens your resolve and helps you to suppress your fears. On the eve of your journey to Eru, the Elder Magi convene a special meeting of the High Council to pray for the success of your mission. For several hours they kneel in prayer until finally they arise and intone the blessing that has sustained you in the past.
May the gods Ishir and Kai protect you on your journey into darkness, Kor-Skarn.
The game rules are just as before, and for the house rules, same as always as well. If we die, we're going to go back to a previous choice, take another one. If we die again, go back, take another choice, etc. until there's no other choice. Then we're just going to go through as if nothing happened. Same thing with the fights. If we die in fight, we're going to take the free option if there's one. If there's none, we're going to go back to a previous choice. If there's no other options, we're simply going to go through as if we won. Was to not play this game tomorrow morning. The list of special items is the same. A new Kai discipline. We're completing another Lord Circle, I think, today. So, batsmanship, invisibility, and Hunt Mastery was missing to complete the Circle of Solaris. So, the choice will be that. Not too sure if it will be useful in this adventure. But it was missing dearly in the previous one. More than I thought will be so. Completion of the Circle of Solaris means that we have +1 med skill and +3 to endurance. With the other things, items. Let's read before on mastery, just to remind us what it do. The skill ensures that you will never starve in the wild. You will always be able to hunt for food even in areas of wasteland and desert. You will not be able to forage for food in urban environments unless the text says otherwise. It also enables you to move with great speed and dexterity and will allow you to ignore any extra loss of combat skill points due to a surprise attack or ambush, if you choose the skill right on mastery on your action chart. For the items, your basic clothing comprises a green Kai tunic, a warm green weatherproof cloak, breeches and leather boots. Before leaving an area on your journey across Magnamon to the Principality of Eru, the Elder Magi gives you a map of Gatan and its surroundings. We can see here. And a pouch of gold. Still have space. I think that... Is it 12 loon per gold? I think it's 16 loon per gold. Actually, which means that we're full. They should write that down somewhere since we carry a lot of loon. Figures is a silver loon. 4 loon for everyone. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. So 16 gold. 64. Yep, we're full. Okay, that's for the gold pouch. The Senate of Tau, in gratitude for your help in saving their city from destruction, offers you equipment to aid you on your perilous mission. Well, if you want. My take on this, they're quite cheap. If you have no meals carried over from previous adventures, you may take a meal to carry with you on your travels. Ah, nice of them. They give us a bit of cheese, bread. Clearly they're going bankrupt with this. As a reward for all your efforts, you are taken to the Grand Armory and given your choice from a display case of expertly crafted blades, each one emblazoned with the castle and crown's crest of Tau. You may select a fine Anari dagger, fine Anari short sword, or fine Anari sword. This weapon will add 1 to your combat skill. Oh, okay, that's nice. Just that I don't really use them. And I'm using an axe and a bow. Don't really want to drop my trusty bow. And even more trusty axe. In addition, you may take your pick of the following items. In addition to those you already possess. But remember, you may only carry 2 weapons, 8 backpack items, etc. You may take up to 6 of the following items. A sword, a bow, shield. Oh. I think it's time to trade the Bronin sleeved shield for a shield. Quiver, we already have one. A chainmail waistcoat, that's fine. Dagger, mace, potion of Lumspur. We have a Rendalim's elixir. But a potion might be useful. The shield will give us +1 combat skill and -1 endurance. A rope. We lost ours in the last adventure. We need a rope. That's 3 items so far. And backpack is full as usual. Not sure that this Scroll of Honor and all the other one will be very useful. A potion of Falater. 3 fiery seeds. I think we don't have the space for that either. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 12 items. Yeah. Maybe I should leave stuff here. Like the blue spear. I think can leave that behind. We're going to have 1 free slot, and we could put in 3 fire seeds for that. And simply throw them away if we don't use them. Random number minus tens of CS. Equal damage. And we need to remember that we have the Crystal Star Pendant, which gives us the ability to reroll 1 die once per adventure. Our pouch, nope, we don't have any curing ability. That's pretty much it. I think I need more meals than this. Scroll of Honor and Vial of Gold Dust. I don't really trust this. Let's take 2 meals instead. Not sure. Can leave that here. Maybe so. Back items for both. That's it for the items. A lantern, we don't need it. Levels of Magnakai training. Since we're starting a new adventure, we're now rank Mentora. With Mentora, there's a advance, improved disciplines, Magnakai disciplines, weapon mastery, curing, and batsmanship. We only have, there's more there. Size screen and divination. So for batsmanship, Mentoras who possess this Magnakai discipline are able to cross any kind of terrain on foot without leaving any tracks, even if the ground is covered in snow. Size screen. Mentoras with this ability can protect themselves from evil spirits and other non-corporeal beings that attack with psychic energy. The effectiveness of this ability increases as a Kai Master rises in rank. If you are carrying the Dagger of Vashna, its endurance penalty is reduced to 2 points because of your improved defenses. Nice. Which means that we are back to 41 endurance points. Divination. Mentoras who possess this skill are able to detect psychic residues lingering in a place where a dramatic event, such as a battle, a murder, a ritual sacrifice, or a ritual ceremony has taken place. By meditating at the scene of the incident, a Kai Mentora is able to visualize the event, even though it may have occurred in the distant past. The nature of any additional improvements and how they affect your Magnakai disciplines will be noted in the Improved Discipline section of future Lone Wolf books. Let's see if there's something for batsmanship in Tutelary. Yeah, nothing to modify on the action chart. I think that the size screen of Mentora is the exception here. There's Weapon Master as well, but we still don't have that. Alright, so before we begin, a little bit of Magnakai Wisdom. Your quest to retrieve the last 3 lore stones of Nixador from the clutches of the Dark Lords will be fraught with deadly dangers. The evil host of El Jadad will summon their most brutal forces to thwart your Magnakai quest. Make notes as you progress through this story, for they will be of great help in this and in future adventures. There are many things that you find which will help you during your mission. Some special items will be of use in this and future Lone Wolf books, while others may be red herrings of no real value at all, so try to be selective in what you decide to keep. Choose your 3 Magnakai disciplines with care, for a wise choice enables any player to complete the quest, no matter how weak their initial combat skill and endurance point scores. Successful completion of previous Lone Wolf adventures, although an advantage, is not essential for the completion of this Magnakai adventure. The restoration of the Kai and the future of your homeland depend on the success of this mission. May the spirit of your ancestors and the wisdom of the great god Kai guide you along the path of the Magnakai, for Summerland and the Kai. Book number 10 and number 5 of the Magnakai series, Section 1, The Dungeons of Torgar. It is dawn on Midsummer's Day when you ride out of Tau since your victory over Zakenkima. Your appearance in a public place has been enough to provoke spontaneous cheering from the Taues, who regard you as their savior. Yet on this warm, sunny morning you leave the city unnoticed, for on this occasion you appear to be just another messenger. The army uniform that you wear and the white horse you ride are part of an elaborate deception conceived by the Elder Magi. In order to make Dark Lord Nahag believe that you are returning to Summerland, you have given your Kai cloak and tunic to your friend Banadon. Disguised as you, he will leave for Summerland aboard his flying ship Skyrider this afternoon. A formal ceremony is planned to mark his departure, and another awaits his arrival at the King's Citadel in Holmgard. Nag has vowed to kill you. It is a vow that has become an obsession that torments him like a poison wound. It is hoped that Banadon's much-publicized flight home will lure Nag's vengeful eyes away to the north and raise your chances of success at Torgar considerably. Your ride ends in Firina, where you catch a barge down river to the port of Talon. In Talon, you receive news of a rebellion in Barakish, the Vasagonian capital, and reports of the sudden withdrawal of Vasagonia's troops from the lands Gnag invaded early in the war. It bodes well for the continuing struggle against the Dark Lords, for Vasagonia was their only major ally. You spend one night in Talon, before buying passage aboard a merchantman on its way along the Tentarius, and 5 days later you disembark at Garten, the capital of Telestria. Telestria was overrun in the early days of the war, but the neighboring country of Palmerion came quickly to the nation's aid. The armies of Telestria and Palmerion united and fought the invading horde, led by warlord Zigrun of Ogia, on the battle plains to the north of Garten. For 3 days and nights, a bitter struggle raged, and the allies were sorely pressed to withstand the overwhelming numbers of the enemy ranged against them. And on the morning of the 4th day, the unexpected arrival of the dwarven army of Bor was to seal Zigrun's doom. His mighty force crumbled, and the survivors fleeing northwards in chaos were pursued relentlessly. The latest news tells of the Allies' capture of Zanar, a major Ogian stronghold, and their continued advance westward along the Black Shroud Trail. The royal court of Queen Evane will be honored to assist you, but secrecy is paramount to the success of your quest, and so you shun the royal palace and take lodgings instead at a humble dockside tavern. There you arrange transportation to Eru aboard a brigantine bound for the ruined capital of Humboldt, and leave the next day on the noontide. Upon your arrival, you make your way to the city's ancient quarter, where the Elder Magi have arranged a clandestine meeting with Prince Gregor. In the cellar of a disused warehouse, the young prince waits patiently for your coming. Like you, he is dressed in the clothes of a messenger in order that he can walk the streets of his city incognito. He welcomes you with a salute, bringing his hand diagonally across his chest, and assures you that your true identity is known only to him. For over an hour, you discuss your plans and listen to the prince recount some of the events that have disturbed the peace of Eru. 2 years ago, Dracarin renegades from the Hammerlands attacked and overran his northern city of Luomi. The inhabitants were slaughtered, and the holy temple of Luomi, around which the city was founded, was looted and razed to the ground. Only recently did they learn from the Elder Magi that the ancient temple held the lore stone of Luomi, one of the 3 lore stones now locked in Torgar. At the time of the attack, the prince's army was too small to repel the invaders, and he was forced to abandon the city, as well as the border town of Sedza. However, in the past month, he has joined forces with King Sarnak of Lenchia, and together they have recaptured Luomi and driven Baron Shinzar and his Hammerland rebels all the way back to Sedza, within 30 miles of the border. Oh, yeah, we can see all of this at the bottom of the map. Luomi here, and Sedza. The Black Shroud Trail. And Torgar over there. The prince invites you to accompany him to Luomi, where he is to resume command of his army and lead them into battle. He provides you with a fine Eruan steed and a new disguise that will enable you to travel through Eru without drawing undue attention to yourself. Dressed as an Eruan pathfinder, one of an elite unit of scouts who operate in the harsh territories bordering the Hell Swamp, you ride north with the prince's entourage and arrive at the city 5 days later. Every house, stable, tavern, and municipal building is filled to overflowing with knights and soldiers. Yet despite their creme billets and meager rations, the soldiers of Eru and Lenchia are in good spirits. For tomorrow they march against a foe that they have already beaten in battle, and most are eager to finish the job once and for all. You are given lodgings within the main citadel of Luomi, and later that evening, after the prince has attended a war conference with King Sarnak, you meet in private to discuss the next stage of your quest. There are 2 ways to reach Torgar, says the prince, as together you study the map given to you by the Senate of Tau. You can cross the river Brawl and make your way northwards through the Mogador forest, or you can go to PC and seek out Seb Jarel. He is the leader of a brave band of partisans. We have ambushed and resisted the Dracarim ever since they invaded. If there is a path to Torgar, between the Hell Swamp and the Isle of the Ghosts, you will know it. You ponder the choices and wonder why the prince has not suggested the simplest and most direct route of all, north across the Isle of Ghosts. When you mention this, he shakes his head ominously. The isle is cursed, he says, pointing at the map with an accusing finger. Here, let's accuse that. Few have ever come out of that dreadful place alive. Of those poor wretches who have survived, only one has kept a grip of his sanity. His name is Seb Jarel. Next day you rise with the dawn and prepare to set off on your journey to Torgar. There are 2 routes open to you. You can ride to Pirsi and seek out Seb Jarel, the partisan leader and the only man who can guide you through this treacherous wilderness, or you can accompany Prince Gregor to battle at Sedza. If his army beats the Dracarim and forces them to retreat, the way across the river Brawl will be open and you will be able to approach Torgar under cover of the Mogador forest. Consult the map before you decide which route to take. Big choice at the beginning of the game. Can go west here to Percy. And take the route over there. Or go to Sedza, win the fight, take the road, and voila, to Torgar. One is with a guide, and the other one isn't. It's be simple in the decision, always towards the east. So we go fight at Sedza. Once the battle is won, the road will be clear up to Torgar, no need for a guide. Anyway, both roads lead to Rome, in this case to Torgar. Since the first rays of dawn light brighten the eastern sky, the streets of Luomi have echoed to the shouts of surgeons and the crunch of booted feet. The regiments of Lencia and Eru are taking their places in the column of march, and by mid-morning this column, over 6,000 strong, is ready to leave for battle. Company by company, through the city's east gate they depart, tramping the dusty road that leads to Sedza. When the time comes for you to join them, you take your place with Prince Gregor's escort and fall in line behind the armored knights of the palace guard. The army is well protected by Lancian horse scouts behind and on both sides. To make sure it is not ambushed while crossing the 20 miles of open grasslands to Sedza. During the afternoon, a troop of scouts are sent ahead to spy on the enemy. They return to report that Baron Shinzar has fortified the town and received reinforcements from Black Shroud since his defeat at Lumi. The news does not cheer Prince Gregor, for he knows the ground around Sedza does not favor the attacker. It is dusk when the army arrives on the outskirts of the town. In the gathering gloom, you can see the enemy campfires flickering between the ruins of cottages that were destroyed when the Dracarim first invaded his land. Occasionally, their gruff voices can be heard on the chill evening wind, as they shout orders and call the names of slaves and attendants. After a whole tiring day's marching, and with night drawing close, the order goes round that there will be no battle offensive this evening. The regiments disperse and many fires are lit. Tents are erected for the nights and the baggage carts are unloaded to provide the men with stores to make their night in the open less uncomfortable. The prince chooses to position his headquarters on a hill to the north that overlooks the town, and King Sarnak of Lencia chooses a similar position on a hill beyond the road, half a mile to the south. Shortly after the tents are constructed, a message arrives from King Sarnak's headquarters, inviting the prince to join him and draw up plans for tomorrow's battle. The prince accepts the invitation and says that you may accompany him if you wish. So we can accompany the prince to King Sarnak's headquarters, or decline the invitation. I'm not sure. It's really covert go there, but at the same time we're going to glean lots of useful information, so I think we can go and just stay in the back, I guess. In the company of a dozen bodyguards and courtiers, you follow the prince as he makes his way on foot to King Sarnak's camp. It is his usual practice to inspect his soldiers on the eve of battle, to see for himself that all is well and to raise their spirits with a few words of praise and encouragement. He is heartened to discover that their morale is already high, and all are confident that he will lead them to victory. At length you arrive at the Lynchian headquarters. A huge yellow flag, bearing the emblem of a white swan and blue dragon, flutters in the breeze above the royal tent, where a unit of silver-clad knights stands stiffly to attention. The banner of Lancia isn't on this map. A trumpet announces your arrival, and the knights escort you inside to meet the king. After formal greetings have been exchanged, the grey-haired king begins to discuss the impending battle. The prince has brought with him a detailed map of the town, and as the two leaders formulate their plans, it is used to mark the places where their regiments will assemble and attack the enemy.
If only we knew the number of reinforcements Baron Shinzar has received,
says the king uneasily.
then we could be sure our plans will succeed.
The prince nods in agreement.
We must send a scout to reconnoiter the defenses, lest hundreds of our soldiers lose their lives needlessly in the assault.
The king glances in your direction before returning his gaze to the prince.
I have no scouts trained for such a delicate operation,
he says,
but I see you have a pathfinder here whose skills will be well suited to this task.
The prince hesitates. He cannot reasonably refuse the king, yet to send you into the enemy camp will endanger your life and your quest. The options: we can volunteer to scout the enemy position, or remain silent. Keep the cover or not. Well, I guess we can volunteer and keep the cover, and we'll be able to see how gloom the future battle will be.
Excellent, says King Sarnak. I wish I had a champion like you in my own army.
He bids you step forward and shows you the extent of the known enemy positions, using Prince Gregor's map. Once you have been briefed, he sends for some black clothing for you to wear instead of your grey Pathfinder's uniform. Once you have completed your preparations, you are escorted to the edge of the encampment, close to the dusty road on which the army marched from Luomi. The guards tell you that the password is broadsword. When you return, you must use this word, or the pickets, the sentries who guard the perimeter of the camp, may mistake you for one of the enemy. The ground to the west of Sedza is flat and featureless and offers very little cover to conceal your approach. Slowly you work your way through the knee-height grasses to within 20 yards of a stone bridge, where the roadway crosses a foul-smelling ditch and enters the town. Your every movement is stiff with caution now, for the bridge is barricaded and you can see the spiky black helmets of the enemy defenders glinting dully in the moonlight. Snake-like, you wriggle forwards, slide down into the ditch, and take shelter beneath the stone bridge. With one cheek pressed against its wet stone, you strain your ears to hear what the enemy is saying. You recognize their harsh, ugly language. It is Giak, but it is not being spoken by their grating, guttural voices. The only others to speak it so fluently are the Death Knights, the elite of the Dracarim, due to the years they must spend serving in the fortress cities of the Darklands as part of their harsh training. Suddenly there is a loud splash that sends your pulse racing. The spear has fallen close to where you are hiding, and its shaft stands upright in the muddy water. A growling curse is followed by the sound of heavy boots descending the bank, as an angry that knight comes to retrieve the weapon he has dropped accidentally. If you have completed the lore circle of Solaris, we just did. Drawing on your Kai skills, you blend with the shadows and stand absolutely still. The Death Knight warrior appears, filling the archway with his massive frame. He snatches up the spear in his mailed fist, turns and then hauls himself out of the ditch, grunting and cursing his carelessness as he struggles in his heavy armor. You wait for about 20 minutes before leaving your hiding place and working your way along the ditch. Silently you move through the shallow sludge of water and mud, hidden by the bank of the ditch from the watchful eyes of the Dracarim sentries. Beyond the ditch, the ground rises to a low wall which encircles a field of cultivated trees. It is an apple orchard, and it is full of enemy soldiers. They are huddled around their campfires or lying asleep beneath the fruit-laden branches. Beyond the orchard lies an expanse of open grassland covered with tents and makeshift paddocks full of horses. Here are Baron Shinzar's reinforcements, over 600 cavalry newly arrived from Black Shroud. You commit every detail to memory before leaving the ditch and making your way back stealthily to the Allied camp. The King and Prince Gregor praise the success of your scouting mission. The information you have gathered is of vital importance to their battle plans. The prince senses that you are tired, and he orders his heralds to escort you back to his quarters and prepare a comfortable bed for you. After the long day's march and the exertions of your scouting mission, gratefully you accept the opportunity of a good night's sleep. At the break of dawn, the soldiers of Lancia and Eru rouse themselves and adopt their position for the fight. You gather your equipment and join the prince at the top of the hill, on which he has established his command post. He is observing the enemy line through a telescope and dictating orders to his heralds. Dutifully, they commit his words to parchment and dispatch them to his regiments in the field. We outnumber the enemy 2-1, but they are well positioned to receive our attack, comments the prince, handing you his telescope so that you can scan their lines. The town of Sedza is little more than a handful of ruined cottages clustered on a flat-topped hill. To the north there is a wood and a small hill on which a ruined temple stands. To the south lies an orchard surrounded by a low wall, and further on, open grassland bisected by a ditch that runs the whole length of the battlefield. The road from Luomi crosses the ditch at a stone bridge that is barricaded and heavily defended. The enemy has also been busy to the north. A mass of pointed stakes from a barrier between the two hills to impede any attempt by cavalry to break through the center. And all along this defensive line stand row upon row of Dracarim archers. An unnatural calm descends on the field, as though time has momentarily stood still. Then the eerie silence is shattered by a fanfare of trumpets from King Sarnek's camp. It is the signal to advance. And there's a little map here. So like described, there's a ditch running through from west to east across the middle of the battlefield. In the middle, from north to south, there's the road with the stone bridge crossing the ditch. And on the bridge, there are 200 dead knights and 50 Kor-Skarn just behind. On top of a little hill, barricaded behind a piked fence in the orchard, are 300 armored Dracarim, 200 Dracarim archers, and 100 other archers. On the other side of the road, on the west side, in the cottages, there are 200 Hammerlanders, 100 archers, 300 Hammerlanders are on the road between the Rune Temple behind the Archer Stakes and between the Hammerlanders, and 200 Dracarim pikes are stationed on top of the hill where there's the Rune Temple, and more to the west, 100 archers are hidden in the woods. On the east side, behind the ditch, there are 100 archers, 200 Brigandi, 300 Zaganozod, 200 mounted dead knights, 100 Ogrons, and 200 Akatas. Finally, at the end of the North Road, just before the destroyed wall of Sedza, there are 200 Brigandi and I think it's 200 Rekenarim. On the ally side, facing the 200 dead knights, are 200 foot knights, 200 pikes, 200 men at arms, 200 halberds, 250 foot knights, 200 halberds on top of that, 200 bows stationed on the hill at King Sarnak's HQ, and 300 halberds in front of the HQ. A little bit more to the east, 200 bows, 1000 Lentian spearmen, 200 horse knights, 200 mounted men at arms, another regiment of 200 mounted men at arms, 350 horse scouts, and the retainers and the levy reservers, numbering 1,500 in the Lentian army. On the west side for the Iruan army, where Lone Wolf is right now, there's the peasant levy reserves for 500 between both armies. Prince Gregor's HQ on top of the hill with 200 Iruan longbows, and defending the hill and the HQ, 200 palace guard and 200 pikes. Well, the Lentian army is well packed compared to ours. We're standing right now with just behind actually the 200 palace guard on the hill at Prince Gregor HQ. Well behind the lines if something happens. Maybe we're at range from the archers in the woods, but they will surely rain down their arrows on the pikes for our position. And unless the Dracarim pikes cross the ditch to square off with the palace guard, we're pretty safe where we are. Really, the Lentian army is in the rough compared to our position. Is there a notion of distance? Yeah. The old battlefield from north to south is maybe about 1 mile from the rear of the Lentian army to the destroyed wall of Sedza. And on the other side, there's maybe 1.5 mile from west to east. From the woods and the Gregor's HQ up to the Levian reserves of the Lenshin army. A big battle incoming. With a little chance we won't have to fight much. But I guess that Baron Chinzar must have something in reserve, a surprise somewhere down the road. Let's see. The Foot Knights of Lenchia are the first to go forward, their densely packed columns marching in perfect order towards the bridge at the center of the enemy line. As they come within range, there is a sound like rushing water, and a cloud of black arrows pours down on their armored ranks. Huge gaps appear in the line, and the columns seek to sway under the impact before continuing the assault. They are flanked to the south by crossbowmen. They fire their weapons as they advance. Unlike the knights, they wear very little armor, and over half their numbers are felled by arrows when they halt to reload their cumbersome bows. The survivors retreat, taking cover among the massed ranks of Lancian spearmen who are advancing towards the Arcade. Prince Gregor signals to his pikemen and men-at-arms to support the Lancian knights, who are engaged in a bitter end-to-end fight at the stone bridge. They are within 100 yards of the bridge when a crackling ray of electric fire sweeps down from the ruins of the temple. It rips through their packed ranks with devastating effect, blasting the pikemen high into the air. If you have the Magnakai discipline of divination and have reached the rank of tutelary or higher, we do. Here's the surprise. Again, a crackling bolt of blue-white fire lances from the hilltop ruins and strikes with lethal accuracy. Screams of terror rend the air as the remaining soldiers fall apart in a desperate, panic-stricken flight to escape the fate that has befallen their slain comrades. Your Kai senses draw your eyes away from this carnage to focus on a figure clad in silver mail and wearing a gold-spiked helmet. He is crouching on the highest point of the dilapidated temple wall, and you sense that his magical power is the source of the deadly blast. Quickly you inform the prince of what you have sensed and seen at the temple. Sounds like a special scout mission. By the gods, what manner of black sorcery is this? Gasped Prince Gregor, horrified by the cruel slaughter. His horror is soon overcome by the sudden realization that he must act swiftly to counter this threat, or the battle will be lost. The Lancian knights are being held up at the bridge, and every minute that passes is costing them dearly. He calls for his destrier, a magnificent white charger clad in ornate plate armor, and climbs swiftly into the saddle. To battle! The prince shouts. Ignoring the warnings of his heralds, he spurs his war horse away from down the hill. The knights of the palace guard give a rousing cheer as he takes his place at the head of their column and leads them towards the ruined temple. Two options: we can mount and join the cavalry advance, or stay where we are. If we stay there, they're going to die. I'm not sure that Prince Gregor will live far down this day. However, our cavalry needs to cross the ditch where 200 Drakarim pikes await. It will be really bad for a cavalry advance. Let's see how it goes anyway. As majestically the palace guard advance, their serried ranks of steel slowly change formation in preparation for the prince's order to charge. Heavy lances rise like the spines of a steel porcupine, and their scarlet and yellow pennants unfurl to the wind. A wave of arrows fly towards you. Stand by the Drakarim standing behind their fence of stakes, but the range is long and the black shafts rattle harmlessly off ruined armor and shields. The first rank of horsemen reach the ditch to find the earth soft and waterlogged. The ruined temple lies 300 yards ahead, and before it a line of Drakarim pikemen stand grimly silent on the slope of the hill. A war horn blares its signal, and suddenly all hell breaks loose. Arrows pour down on all sides, from the enemy archers to the right, and from archers previously unseen, lurking in the woods to the left. Many shafts find their way through the sides of helmets and between plates of polished armor. Still, the prince commands his men onwards, and they force their horses across the ditch, braving the savage hail of death. You survive the arrows and steer your horse through the clawing mud, but you are knocked from the saddle by a riderless steed, maddened by the pain of its wounds. Pick a number from the random number table. 6. If you have the Magnakai disciplines of animal control and unmastery, nope. If you have completed the lore circle of the sun, nope. If your current endurance score is 8 or less, deduct 1. Okay, we're fine with this. If the result is 5 or higher, we're fine. You land with a splash and roll into the ditch to avoid being trampled by the following horses. After clawing the muck from your eyes, you crawl along the channel. A short distance ahead, you can see a knight pinned beneath his dead horse. His head is trapped beneath the mud, and he is flailing his arms wildly. He is slowly drowning. 3 options. We can save his life by pulling him out from beneath his horse, choose to ignore his plight and remount our own horse, or simply follow the prince's attack on foot. Well, poor guy, he's dying. Once you have managed to grab hold of his arms, you heave him out from beneath his dead mount and prise open the visor of his helmet. He coughs and retches the mud from his mouth before lying back against the bank of the ditch.
I owe you my life, Pathfinder,
He gasps.
Another minute, and I'd have been done for.
You turn to leave, but he grabs you by the wrist and presses a medal into your hand.
I won this at the Battle of Lumi,
He says with pride.
I want you to have it, with my eternal thanks.
You can keep the medal as a special item. Do we have space for that? I guess it's goodbye, fiery seeds. Goodbye, fire seeds. We're going to try to keep this medal until the next adventure to leave it at the monastery, or in the great care of the Elder Magi. Another cloud of deadly arrows falls from the sky, and you dive to the bottom of the ditch to avoid being hit. When you feel it is safe to raise your head, you discover that the knight is no longer with you. He's chasing after the prince and his fellow knights as they gallop up the hill towards the Drakkar pikemen. You can follow on foot or look for a horse. Well, don't really believe in horses right now. I think we don't have many other choice than by foot. Prince Gregor's voice rings out above the din of battle when he orders the palace guard to charge the pikemen. The ground shakes beneath the pounding of the horses' hooves as they gather speed, their pennants streaming from their level lances. The Drakkar huddle shoulder to shoulder and nervously dig the butts of their pikes into the hillside to steady their trembling hands. The knights reach the hill. They thunder up the slope. A blaze of lightning hurtles from the top of the temple, but it is mistimed. It crackles harmlessly over their heads and explodes behind them, hurling nothing but scorched earth high into the sky. The prince screams his battle cry, and the knights slam into the Drakkar with a deafening roar. Men and metal howl in agony as the heavy horses break like a wave against the wall of pikes. You see a rider lifted out of his saddle on the point of a pike, and a crumpled ramp of black metal suddenly appears where a score of Drakkar have been trampled into the ground. The prince and a dozen of his bravest knights break through and gallop towards the temple, but the Dracarim quickly close their ranks and seal the breach. The remaining palace guardsmen are forced to a halt and engage a pikeman in a fierce hand-to-hand combat. You reach the hill and leap over the steel-clad bodies that litter the slope. As you near the melee, you see two Dracarim rushing towards you from the side. Their axes are raised in readiness to hack you down. For Summerlawn and the Kai, you cry and turn to face their attack. It's not really covered. Alright, we're fighting for Summerlawn now. And Dracarim, combat skill 22. That's plus 10 combat ratio. And they have 32 endurance points. If you use the Bronze Warhammer, nope. Anyway, the Summer Sword is way better. And I guess that we're blowing our cover anyway. We were screaming for the Kai and Summerlawn, so don't care. All in. First fight of the night. With a plus 10 combat ratio should be easy. Yeah, we need to roll pretty much anything and it's good. With 32, I think that it's safe to roll 3 dice at once. Average-ish. 584. That means 12 against 2. 18-0 for 32. And 4 is 11-2, so the enemy is dead. And we lost 4 endurance points. If you win the combat. The palace guards succeed in closing their ranks and fending off the frenzied attacks of the desperate Dracarim. Their gallantry and battle skill is a stirring sight to behold as they fight their way determinedly towards the crest of the hill. Faced by such noble warriors, the Dracarim begin to falter and fall back in disarray towards the town. As you near the top of the hill, you catch sight of Prince Gregor. He is locked in mortal combat with a silver-clad warrior inside the ruins of the temple. Strewn around them are the dead bodies of those palace guardsmen who, with the prince, broke through the Dracarim pikemen during their charge upon the hill. The prince is trying to prevent the warrior from retrieving a rod of iron that lies on the ground between them. This rod crackles with a blue-white fire that shimmers along its length. If you possess the Summer Sword, we do. You unsheathe the Sun Sword, and flames course along its blade, filling the runes with a vivid golden light. The prince turns to shout a warning, but his adversary strikes him a cruel blow that lays open his thigh and knocks him to the ground. Although his helm hides his face, its nose bar and chin piece exposing little but a malicious glint in his eyes, you are sure that this is no ordinary Dracarim warrior. The smell of evil hangs heavy around him like the stench of a rotting corpse. He snarls a vile curse and flings his sword at your head. You fend off the spinning blade with ease, but the attack has served its purpose. The warrior snatches up the shimmering iron rod, and it hums with a force that reveals its fell ancestry. It is a stave of power forged in the furnaces of El Jadad. With a mighty yell, he thrusts the stave at your chest, and a blast of white flame scorches your arm as you parry the attack on the hilt of the summer sword. Hive blended by the flash, you stagger back and quickly muster your strength for a desperate fight to the death. A Ziren with a power stave. Combat skill 30. So it's only a +2 combat ratio. And the enemy has 50 endurance points. A really big fight right at the beginning. The Ziren is immune to Mind Blast but not Psy Surge, which means it's a combat ratio of 0 and even fight. Get good result, we need to roll at least 5, I'd say, on the table. And we pretty much can roll safely 6 dice at once. This big fight really earns the battle song. There we go. 486932. Not that good. A good spread of numbers. Or it's 6 against 3. Write down all this. 8 is 10-0. 6, 8, 2. 9 is 11-0. A 3 is 5-4. And a 2 is 4-4. So we lost 13 endurance points, but the enemy is down to 6 endurance points. The next roll might decide the fight. Seven should be good. The enemy is dead and we lost 1 more endurance points. If you win the combat, at the moment of his death, a cone of black fire erupts from the power stave and engulfs the Ziren's body. The gathering ebony flames hold like a pack of demons as they form into a small cyclone and ascend into the sky. Swiftly you take hold of the injured prince, heave him across your shoulder and carry him away from the black tornado that is sucking chunks of temple debris into its spinning core. Once you are a safe distance from the temple, you lower the prince gently to the ground and watch as the cyclone ebbs and fades. Using your innate Kai skill of healing, you tend to the prince's wounded leg, and soon he steers to consciousness. The palace guard have captured the hill, and their banner flutters overhead, proclaiming proudly their victory and inspiring the Lancians who are fighting at the bridge. The prince orders that a signal be sent to his reserves, instructing them to advance without delay, for the enemy are rallying to counterattack. Tensely you watch as a mass of leather-clad Hammerlanders, supported by a regiment of grim-faced Brigandi, advance up the hill. The palace guard link their shields and prepare to welcome the enemy with sharpened steel. Onward they come, their banners held high, their war horns filling the air with a noisy clangor. They surge forward and with a yell, the front rank slams into the shield wall. Sword blades fly, striking sparks and drawing blood. Axes and maces fall with crushing blows. A knight falls dead at your side, and his slayer hurls himself through the gap. He scrambles to his feet and attacks you with his gore-reddened blade. And Hammerlander combat skill 24. So it's a +8 combat ratio. And he has 31 endurance point. Owing to his state of battle frenzy, the Hammerlander is immune to Mind Blast, but not Psy Surge, which means it's a +6 combat ratio. It'll be easy. To win we need to roll pretty much 2 or 3 or higher. I think we can roll 3 dice at once safely. Five, 3, 6 average rolls again. 10 against 2, 8 against 3, or 18-5, and 11-1 for 29 against 6. Last roll, I guess. A 7. The enemy is surely dead. And we lose no endurance points. We're down to 21. If you win the combat, four men die before the shield wall knits together and the last ground is regained. The Hammerlanders reel back as the Brigandi surge forward, but they too cannot break through the palace guard. A trumpet sounds in the distance and the prince's men cheer when they see their reserves streaming up the hill to support them. 200 Eruan pikemen press forward behind their bristling steel and take the enemy in the flank. The attack is devastating. The enemy forces are split asunder and swept from the slope. The pikemen halt, and through their ranks a wave of archers moves forward to fire at the backs of the retreating foe. Retreat turns swiftly to rout as the Hammerlanders and their Brigandi flee the field in chaos.
Unto Setza!
Shouts Prince Gregor. The battle cry is taken up by his valiant soldiers as he leads them across the corpse-strewn field towards the town. Heavy fighting is raging along the main street. The Lentian knights have taken the bridge, and King Sarnak's spearmen have breached the wall that surrounds the Apple Orchard. However, the Dracarim are determined to stand their ground, and they fight back viciously, like a pack of starving wolves. You run with a group of longbowmen towards the center of Setza and find yourself approaching a barn-like building that overlooks the bridge. Standing at a window on its upper floor is a Dracarim sniper with an arrow notched, ready to fire. Patiently, he watches you weaving through the smoky ruins until you present a clear target. He releases his training bowstring and sends an arrow whistling towards your heart. Pick a number from the random number table. If you have the Magnakai discipline of Hunt Mastery, add 3 to the number you have picked, so that's 7. If the result is 6 or higher. Your Kai senses save you from the sniper's shaft. It whistles past harmlessly as you dive for cover. As you're rising to your feet, you spot your would-be assassin hastily reloading his bow. If you have a bow and wish to use it, yeah, let's counter bow. With the legendary speed and grace of a Kai Master in battle, you draw an arrow and send it whistling towards the sniper's head. He utters a gurgling scream as he topples from the first floor window, with your arrow stuck in his throat. Two options: we can run forward and search the body, or press on towards the center of the town. It's our kill or loot. Roughly, you pull the dead Drakkar onto his stomach and cut open his back. In the pack and on his body, you discover the following items: a sword, a dagger, a Concordulaga bow, a blanket, a quiver, 3 arrows. Ah, nice. And 16 loon. The Concordulaga bow is a weapon-like special item made of black iron which adds +2. Not as good as the silver bow of Duadon, to the number you pick when using a bow. However, the special item is designed for a Drakkar. In your hands, its bowstring will cut you and make you lose 1 endurance point every time you use it unless you possess wrist and finger guards. Ah. We don't have space for this. Sounds really like a bad plan. It really sucks to leave a special item behind like this. But we have no choice. It's either that or throwing away the medal. I guess the bow will stay there. May take any of these items before pressing on towards the center of the town. You reach a square near the center of the town where a unit of enemy reserves are gathered, awaiting the order to join the battle. There are Kor-Skarn, hideous-looking creatures from the Mogador and Akamazin forest. They are approached by a swarthy giant of a man with a short black beard and shiny bald head, who brandishes a massive war axe fashioned from a fiery red metal. The axe must weigh more than its wielder, but he waves it above his head as if it were no heavier than a stick of wood. Judging from his features and from what you have heard during your travels through Eru, this warrior is Baron Shinzar, the enemy commander. If you have a bow and wish to use it, yes, let's go. The Baron is shouting at the Kor-Skarn to form a line and get ready to advance. The only vulnerable part of his body that you can see as he strides back and forth before his troops is his unarmored head. Coolly, you draw an arrow to your lips and aim at the nape of his neck. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to any missile bonuses you may have. Yeah, I forgot the +3 of the Bow of Duadon before, so the roll was 10 and not 7. Let's see how it goes here. 9 plus 3, 12. If your total is now 8 or higher. Your arrow strikes the Baron, but he is saved from a fatal wound by the lip of the steel bavor that protects his neck and back. The arrow ricochets, gouging a deep furrow across the base of his skull and making him fall heavily to his knees. Billowing like an angry bull, he glares in your direction as he struggles painfully to his feet. If you possess the Summer Sword or the Dagger of Vashna, you have both.
Meet your doom ere ones come!
He sneers as he comes striding across the square with his fearsome axe raised to strike. You lift your magical weapon and level it at his head. The blade starts to glow as it is being charged with immeasurable power. A flicker of doubt passes across the Baron's eyes, but he shrugs aside his fear and continues to advance. With a roar like a howling gale, the blade of his axe is transformed into a mass of scarlet flame that reeks of sulphurous decay. Baron Shinzar with Hog Kagaz. Combat skill 37. It's a -5 combat ratio. And he has 50 endurance. For Lone Wolf. We're back to 30 out of 41. Is it worth it to heal ourselves here? With a combat ratio of -5. We need to roll 7 or higher for it to be worthwhile. I think we'll need the Rendalim's elixir to make it through this fight. We're at 36 endurance points. This really important fight, quite at the beginning of the book actually. I think we can safely roll pretty much 8 die at once. Intoxicated by the power of the weapon he wields, the Baron is immune to Mind Blast, but not to Psy Surge. He's also immune to the effects of Fire Seeds. You may evade the combat after 3 rounds. So it's a -7 combat ratio. Let's see how it goes after 3 rounds then, just to be sure. Worth it to use Psy Surge. At the cost of 1 endurance points, it will reduce the combat ratio or rather augment the combat ratio from -7 to -4. Seems to make a huge difference. Yeah, let's remove 3 endurance points for the first 3 rounds and go with a combat ratio of -3. One good roll out of the 3, 495. Four is 4 against 4. A 9 is a 9-0. And a 5 is 5 against 4. So that's 9-8. 18 against 8 for the first 3 rounds. Lone Wolf is down to 25. And the enemy is down to 32. I think it's safe. Roll 4 dice. Can remove 4 endurance points just to stay at combat ratio 3. Okay, half and half. 3949. Three against 5. And a 9-0. And a 4-4 and a 9-0. That's 7-9 and 18. So 25 against 9. The enemy is down at 7. And Lone Wolf is down at 12. The tables have been reversed. I think we shall lower our endurance points to 10. Roll 2 dice at combat ratio 3. Ugh, 5-1. Well, it's a good thing that the 1 is at combat ratio 3 and at combat ratio -7. We at least do 1 damage with the 1. It's a 1-6. So it's a 8-8. Oh! The enemy is dead. But we have only 2 endurance points left. That was really risky. But let's see what would have happened without the Psy Surge. It will have been 1-7 and -7 ratio, combat ratio. So a 0-8 and a 5-4. We will have lost 12 endurance points. And we will be dead against 5 for the enemy. So Psy Surge saved our ass here. If you win the combat by the skin of our teeth, a triumphant cheer fills the air as the soldiers of Prince Gregor and King Sarnak flood into the square. Setza has been recaptured, and the enemy has been smashed beyond recovery. Everywhere you look, there are joyous faces, for the death of Baron Shinzar has sealed a victory that will liberate all of Eru from the cruel yoke of Dracarim occupation. As you watch the defeated remnants of the enemy escape across the ruins of the Setza wall and scurry like rats for the safety of Black Shroud, Prince Gregor joins you in celebration of the victory. "We have triumphed, Lone Wolf," he says. "Our land is now free, and the way is open for you to reach Torgar and fulfill your quest." An hour before dawn, you leave Sedza and ride across the open grasslands that slope gently towards the river Brawl. A full moon and the gathering light of day help you to identify the landmarks that Prince Gregor told you to look out. These features will help guide you to a fjord close to the site of an abandoned copper mine. His directions prove accurate, and by mid-morning you find yourself on a ridge that overlooks the fjord and its cluster of derelict mining huts. The comfortable night's rest you had allows you to regain 3 endurance before you set out. Better than nothing. If you have the Magnakai discipline of Hunt Mastery and have reached the Magnakai rank of Principalin or higher, you do. Using your improved Hunt Mastery powers of telescopic vision, you focus on the rune log huts and scan them thoroughly for signs of life. A dull glint of sunlight on tarnished steel and a glimpse of a scarlet-clad figure moving behind an open doorway warns you that the settlement is occupied. You cast your eyes along the river for an alternative place to cross. However, it is only here that the deep, fast-flowing waters of the river Brawl are shallow enough to make a crossing on horseback. You can get up towards the fjord despite the near certain risk of an ambush, or avoid the fjord and try to cross the river further downstream instead. Oh, we're so low endurance points. Not sure there will be something more down the stream. There's no bridge on the map, although the map is quite at the south edge. Here says we need to cross that bridge. There's no way around it. You spur your horse down the slope and gallop along an overgrown track that leads to the fjord. The log huts are shrouded in silence, but as you draw level with them, a gruff shout shatters this illusion of peacefulness, and a hail of arrows cuts the air. One of the black shafts buries itself deeply in your horse's neck. Damn. He shrieks in pain and crashes to his knees, hurling you into the river. You gulp a mouthful of the icy water and struggle to your feet, coughing and cursing, just in time to see your ambushers come powering out of the nearest hut. They advance towards you, reloading their bows as they run, if you have a bow and wish to use it. Yeah, let's go. And I forgot to remove the other arrow. You see, we will be down to 10 arrows. You draw an arrow and take aim at an archer just as he's raising his bow to fire at you. Your shaft beats his. It buries itself in his chest and sends him spinning to the ground. Quickly you note that of the 5 men advancing towards you, 2 are armed with bows. If you have at least 2 arrows in your quiver and wish to fire at these advancing foes, we have at least 2 arrows. With devastating speed and accuracy, you draw your arrows and fire them deep into the hearts of the 2 enemy archers. Both men stagger and crumple to the ground. but your impressive bowmanship does little to deter their comrades. With a fearsome yell, the 3 remaining warriors brandish their swords and axes and come thundering towards you. There is no time to evade their attack. You must fight them to the death. Okay, let's check our endurance points. Up to here. We're up to 10. I think it's enough. Because here, pawns. Zaganazad, combat skill 20. Plus 12. Combat ratio fight. And they have 32 endurance points. Well, with a plus 2, anything is good. Let's start with 2 dice roll. Oh, they're not very good. 3 and 4. 11, 2, 12, 2. That's 23 against 4. The next roll will be the decisive one. 7. Well, they're surely dead. No damage. Against 18. That's a victory. Here. Running very low on endurance points still. If you win the combat. But we have no horse. You sheath your weapon, wipe the sweat from your brow, and commence a search of the bodies of your ambushers. All of them are clad in black helmets and scarlet chainmail hauberks. Each man has a varied assortment of weapons and equipment strapped to their muscular bodies. You recognize the distinctive armor which identifies them as Zaganazod, a motley unit of Dracarim cavalry that patrol the Blackshroud Trail. This company must have fled here on foot after the Dracarim defeat at Sedza, where you can find no sign of their horses. Your search of their bodies reveals the following items: 2 swords, 3 quivers, 2 daggers, 11 arrows, 3 bows, 2 axes, 1 mace, 1 broadsword, 16 loon, and 4 meals. Take a meal. And a bunch of arrows. Up to 12. You may take any items you wish. When you have made the necessary adjustment to your action chart, you ford the river and continue on foot. The ground rises steeply and it is dusk before you climb ends at the crest of a ridge overlooking the grasslands of northern Eru. In less than an hour it will be dark, so you decide to camp here on the ridge and continue at first light. You must now eat a meal or lose 3 endurance points. You can hunt. You're settling down on a mattress of leaf mold when the chilling howl of a timber wolf prompts you to abandon your soft bed and spend the night in the bough of a tree. Yeah, I guess with all our wounds we're kind of fresh meat. Your journey northwards through the Mogador forest is a long and tiring trek fraught with danger. Roving bands of Kor-Skarn and packs of savage timber wolves demand that you remain vigilant at all times. As you venture deeper into their vast domain, you feel your sense of time gradually slipping away. Your only consolation on this long and lonely trek is that wild game is plentiful and you experience no shortage of food. If you possess a blanket, its comfort and warmth allow you to recover 2 endurance points as you travel. Wow, the blanket is useful. And remember that. On the morning of your 9th day in the forest, you notice that the grey pines are beginning to thin out, and the ground is becoming dusty and sparsely vegetated. Soon you happen upon a road constructed of broken stones that leaves the forest and disappears into a barren landscape of yellow sulphurous soil. You check your map and it confirms your suspicions. You have now reached the foothills of the Nadulridzaga Mountains, and you are less than 20 miles from the fortress of Torgar. Wow, already 9 days, voila, up there we are. After a week of trekking across difficult terrain, the firm surface of the hill track feels as smooth as a mirror beneath your aching feet. By noon, you have put 10 miles behind you and have reached a bridge that crosses a sickly yellow stream flowing down from the surrounding hills. You must now eat a meal or lose 3 endurance points. What do we have on mastery? You are about to continue your journey across the bridge when you hear a rumble of hoof beats and see a group of horsemen shrouded in dust riding along the road towards you. If you have a Magnakai Discipline of On Mastery and have reached the rank of Principalin or higher, we do. Using your ability to intensify your vision, you focus on the advancing horsemen. You see that they are all wearing surcoats of scarlet and grey, embroidered with a crest bearing an open hand. The only horsemen who wear this livery are the cavalry of Telestria. From which side are they coming from already? Towards us, so they are coming from Torgar. That's way strange. Way too fishy. Two options: we can wave the riders or stay hidden by the cover of the bridge. Yeah, it's better to stay hidden. Way too strange. They might be undercover spies. Are they spies? Before taking a decision, let's check our endurance points. We're at 11. Can the enemy masquerade as allies, or they are traitors? If they're not traitors, though, so close to the enemy fortress. 10 miles, they said. That's so close to the enemy fortress. Okay, let's check if we take a risk. I'm really not sure about that one. Guess that we're taking the risk. The Telestrians bring their horses to a halt and regard you with suspicion. Yeah, I guess. We're both suspicious. Their officer draws his sword and demands to know your nationality and the name of your regiment. You reply in his native tongue that you are a Neruan pathfinder, and a smile spreads slowly across his rugged face. He tells you that he and his men are scouts who have been sent to make sure that the elves are free of enemy troops. Your Kai's sixth sense confirms that he speaks the truth, and when he offers to take you to meet his commander, you accept the invitation gladly. Oh, dodge the bullet here. You share the officer's horse as he leads his company back along a route they have already ridden. Steadily, the road winds upwards through the hills towards a ridge of yellow rock. As you top the crest of the ridge, you catch your first awe-inspiring glimpse of Torgar. The walls of this grim city fortress stand upon the brink of a ravine cut deep by centuries of rushing water. A natural causeway of stone spans this dark chasm and provides the only means of approaching Torgar from the south. Its position and its defenses seem impregnable. It commands the only road into the barren land of Gatan, and any who dare travel upon this road must pass over the causeway and through the city's great iron gate. In the past there have been few who will venture willingly to Torgar, but now the causeway and its approaches swarm with such men. They are the soldiers of Telestria and Palmerian, and they have come with their engines of war to lay siege to this grim Dracaran fortress. Oh, that's great news. Really great news. The scout officer spurs his horse away from the ridge, and you are carried towards a cluster of tents that stand on high ground overlooking the siege works. As you arrive, a small group of knights step forward to take the horse's reins. You dismount with the officer and follow as he enters the largest tent. If you have ever visited the city of Garten in a previous Lone Wolf adventure, we did. Inside the tent, a group of senior officers are poring over their battle maps and planning their troop dispositions for an assault across the causeway. Their leader has his back to you, but when he turns to see who has entered his tent, you recognize him at once. He is Adamas, Lord Constable of Garten. "By the gods!" he exclaims. "I thought the Donarg had claimed you, Lone Wolf. How good it is to see you alive!" He dismisses his captains and bids you tell him all that has happened since last you met. "So you wish to break into Torgar?" he says thoughtfully. "How strange it is that our goals are so similar. Come, follow me. I fancy our cooperation will hasten the success of both our aims." Quite the surprising allies there. Let's plan the real adventure ahead. Short distance from Lord Adamas's tent, there stands a wooden watchtower, constructed by his army engineers, which offers an unobstructed view of the causeway and the great gate of Torgar. As you reach the top of its rickety ladder and step onto the platform beside the Lord Constable, he recounts the events that have led to the siege of this city fortress. Following his victory over the Ojins and the destruction of Zanar, Adamas led the allied armies of Bor, Telestria, and Palmerian along the Blackshroud Trail in pursuit of the shattered army. When they reached the Agnakorkuzim, the Road of Slaves, the army of Bor was detached and sent to assail Blackshroud from the east, while the bulk of the allied forces marched north towards Torgar. Yeah, that's where they're speaking about. So the dwarves are coming here from the east towards Blackshroud, and the humans venture north up this path over there. When Telestria was overrun in the early days of the war, thousands of her people were taken as slaves and imprisoned here in this fortress. Lord Adamas swore that one day he would free them, and he was determined to fulfill his solemn pledge. During the march north, a great battle was fought near the wastelands of Zudezna against two Geak armies led by Dark Lord Kragenskal and Dark Lord Chlanzor. Both were soundly defeated by the allies and sent back to Cragmantle to lick their wounds. Over here, and they retreated there. Although victorious at Zudezna, the allies suffered heavy losses, and Adamas feared they would be too weak to storm Torgar. He was too far from his homeland for reinforcements to reach him swiftly, and there was the growing threat that the Dark Lords will muster their troops in Tanos and Mosgoa and attack again. Faced with this grave dilemma, he decided to risk an assault on Torgar. "We have the means to breach their iron gate," he says, staring purposefully at the great door of Torgar. "The Elder Magi have given us a device that will reduce it to twisted scrap, and when we march through that portal and free our people, we shall have all the reinforcements we need." Well, he's banking quite a lot on slaves, on malnourished prisoners, and all this. There are thousands, although, but still. The hoarse cries of soldiers and the blare of war trumpets announce preparations for an assault across the causeway. Armored infantry gather in a spearhead formation and wait for the order to advance towards a wall of logs and earth, which has been thrown up to protect the vanguard troops dug in on the causeway itself. These warriors scuttle about behind their ramparts, holding arched wooden shields over their bent backs to protect them against the arrows raining down from the battlements. The iron gate stands less than 50 yards from their position, and this approach is heaped with the bodies of those who have fallen during previous assaults. You accompany Lord Adamas as he makes his way through the massed ranks of infantry and enters a trench which zigzags towards the causeway. He stops at a log-lined hollow dugout of the trench wall and speaks with the captain, who is lying there nursing a broken arm. The wounded officer hands him his leather satchel, and Adamas continues along the trench until he reaches the center of the causeway. There, you both take cover with the vanguard and peer through a slit in the log wall at the formidable entrance to Torgar. "It's an impressive-looking door," says Adamas, studying a wall of black iron, pitted and streaked with age. "But every door has its key, And we have the key to this one. He flips open the leather satchel and removes what appears to be a mass of triangular crystals fused into one solid lump. This is the device that the Elder Magi prepared for us. It has to be placed at the foot of the door, and it is activated by pressing a shard, he says, pointing to a sliver of crystal protruding from the side. The thing will explode precisely 10 seconds after the shard is pressed. Calmly, he takes a coin from his pocket and flicks it in the air. One of us must place the device, he says as he catches the coin. We're the only two left who stand a chance of surviving the run. He nods as his clenched fist and invites you to call heads or tails. If you have the Magnakai discipline of divination and wish to use it. Yeah. Let's see the result before and take an informed decision. You focus your Kai skill on Adamas's hand, but you cannot tell which side of the coin is showing. All you can detect is a strong magical aura. It indicates that the coin is magically shielded. You have no option but to guess which side is showing. But I wanted to go in his place if my endurance points was enough. Okay, our endurance points is now up to 18. That's still a bit low. Okay, heads or tails? It's simply a roll of dice. Even his heads, odds his tail. So that's tails. Lord Adamas opens his hand and the coin shows tails. You have guessed correctly. Very well, he says, unbuckling his cumbersome sword belt and shouldering the satchel which contains the crystal explosive. Here I go, wish me luck. He orders the vanguard to provide covering fire with their crossbows, and then he clambers over the rampart and sprints towards the Torgar gate. Pick a number from the random number table. 9. If it is 5 or higher. The Dracarim give a loud yell as soon as they see Adamas appear. At once the vanguard fire the crossbows and many bolts find their mark. But the Dracarim who fall do not hamper their comrades who are preparing to welcome Adamas with huge chunks of rock. With cat-like agility, he veers right and left, weaving his way through the deluge of falling boulders that smash down with a terrific crack. He reaches the door unscathed, rips the satchel from his shoulder, and primes the crystal explosive. Automatically, you start to count aloud as he runs back through rubble and dead bodies. 6, 7, 8. He leaps, and as you count 9, he clears the rampart and lands beside you, breathless and exhilarated. Well, good job, Adamas. Impressive. The crystal explodes with a blinding flash, releasing a bolt of sun-like energy that tears a massive hole in the 1-foot-thick iron plate and transforms what little remains into red-hot slag. The shuddering concussion jars the entire causeway, and fragments of glowing metal fall all around you. Triumphant cheers rise above the thunderous boom that is rumbling through the ravine, as the spear point of Adamas's army surges across the causeway towards the ruined gate. You take your place beside Lord Adamus and charge through the smoldering gap, leaping skillfully over the charred and broken remains of the Dracarim who were caught by the blast. The allied soldiers follow your lead and sweep into the startled city, through a gate now guarded only by the slain. Despite their shock, the defenders begin to rally as they receive fresh reinforcements from other parts of the city. Soon, a vicious battle rages in the cramped and gloomy streets. You may wish to note that you have visited the city of Torgar, for future reference. There we go. You lead a group of Palmerian men-at-arms across a courtyard and into a dingy street, where you find yourselves confronted by a regiment of Dracarim garrison troops. They have gathered to make a wall of shields behind a pair of small figures. They are black-robed and cold, and each is holding a yellow globe. If you possess the Magnakai discipline of divination and have reached the rank of tutelary or higher, you do. Your Magnakai skill warns you that the robed figures possess magical abilities. The glass globes they are holding contain a volatile mixture of phosphorus and oil. If the globes break, the contents will burst into flames immediately upon contact with the air. If you have a bow and wish to fire an arrow at one of the globes... Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. The two diminutive magicians see you level your bow, and immediately they realize they are in mortal danger. As you take aim, they get ready to hurl their spheres at the Palmerians. Pick a number from the random number table and add any missile bonuses you have to this number. 0, which is 10, plus the silver bow of Duadon, that's 13. If it is 8 or higher. Your arrow screams towards the magician and shatters the sphere clasped in his claw-like hand. There is a brilliant flash as it explodes, scattering fragments that hiss like a host of fiery snakes among the Dracarim. The second magician drops his sphere, setting off another explosion. The Dracarim scream in pain and terror as the fragments burn everything they touch. The surviving Dracarim scatter into the surrounding alleys, and you are able to advance towards the center of Torgar unopposed. The Palmerians meet up with their regiment, and you continue on your own, along the dingy thoroughfare. It leads to an open square where a conical tower of iron points accusingly at the sky. Here the flagstones vibrate to a continuous throbbing that beats like a gigantic pulse somewhere deep in the bowels of the city. Battle has drawn most of the Dracarim away from this square, and you have no difficulty in reaching the tower and entering via an open archway. A corridor of steel lies beyond, empty save for the constant din that assails your ears. Countless passages lead off from the main corridor, all sloping downwards. Many are occupied by Dracarim warriors. The passages are poorly lit, and it is easy to avoid your enemies until you reach a vast stairway. It is bathed in a bright orange glow that radiates from a level below. Pick a number from the random number table. Oof, 1. If you have the Magnakai Discipline of Invisibility, add 2. So that's 3. If you have completed the Lore Circle of Solaris, we do. That's 2 for a total of plus 4, so we have only 5. And I think we can use the Crystal Star Pendant and reroll this because it's way too low. Oh, 2. So that's only 6. If the result is 7 or higher, it's not. Oh, la 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 la. Well, stealth failed. You're about to descend when a shadow looms into view, and a Dracarim officer appears at the foot of the stairs. Instantly, you press yourself to the wall and draw upon your Kai abilities to mask your presence. The officer strides up the stairs, passing within a few feet of you, but miraculously fails to notice that you are there, and he continues without stopping. After pausing to wipe a trickle of cold sweat from your brow, you continue down the stairs. Come, it worked. Makes no sense. Is it an error? What happened with the low score? There's a fight with the low score. Damn, how come? Our invisibility is a bad thing. I think there's an error here. And both numbers are swapped. I'm going to look this up on the internet because it's way too strange. Okay, Dungeons of Torgar, Errata, section 48, no, 332. Project Eon Errata, but shouldn't they have fixed this in the definitive edition? Section 332 isn't in the errata. I'm going to check on a French website. Seem to be an errata. That's really, really weird. There really doesn't seem to be anything about this. So, well, I guess we're dodging a bullet here. Really, really strange. But it seems that it's not an error, or it's a new error inside the definitive edition. Alright, so we just evaded the Dracarim officer by failing our rolls. I need to double check with the original book. It's the same. Just to be sure. It's a French book though, but... Okay, here. Dans les entrailles de Torgar. Section 332. Yeah, they're talking about being stealthy. Need to roll a random number with the Circle of Solaris. It's +3, but now it's +2 for the Circle of Solaris and +2 for the other Magnakai discipline. There's a change there, but we need to roll a die anyway, and with 7 or higher we go to section 47 where we are right now. And it says, au moment de vous engager dans l'escalier, yeah, we evade the fight there. And if we go to the other section with the successful roll, vous avez descendu la moitié des marches quand vous figez soudain sur place en voyant apparaître une ombre devant vous. And there's a fight against a Dracarin captain. Well, okay, it's not an error. Oh. That means if you have invisibility and completed the Solaris circle, you're at a disadvantage in this situation. Well, Lady Luck was on our side because we used the Crystal Star Pendant to re-roll that die roll, and it failed miserably. That's quite incredible. Okay, let's continue then. Beyond the staircase lies a circular parapet which overlooks a huge cavernous crater. It is filled with thousands of human slaves, toiling with picks and shovels, deep in the sulphurous heart of Torgar. Their bodies are filthy and covered with sweat, despite the freezing wind which howls in the depths like a hungry wolf. Dracorim overseas urge them to exert greater effort, and the crack of their whips is answered by the slaves' anguished cries of pain. Angered by what you see, you leave the parapet and enter a dimly lit passage that descends to a door of black steel. A twist of its handle reveals that it is locked. If you have a black key, nope. If you have a skeleton key, nope. If you possess neither of these keys, well, we are so stealthy that we never found any keys. Examine the lock and recognize its simple latch mechanism. If you possess the Magnakai discipline of Nexus, we do. No luck will impede the progress of Lone Wolf. You focus your Kai skill on the detent, willing it to move aside. Clicks back and the door opens onto a passage that is lined with torches. Halfway along there is another door. It is a solid slab of iron broken only by a small barred window. Silently you approach this door and peer in through the grille. If you have visited the Donarg or the Isle of Kor in a previous Lone Wolf adventure, well, we have visited the Donarg, and we have also visited the Isle of Kor. it what I think it is? I thought this was supposed to happen in book 14, though. Oh no, in book 14 is someone else. Oh. Yeah. I mixed two person together. Yeah, I remember why we have a prisoner to save in book 14. Yeah, not trying to spoil too much. But you'll see in the next section what's going to happen there. Something that book number 7. Is it 7? No, book number 8 heralded at the end, the last section, that we are going to see him again. Beyond the door, you can see a dank dungeon cell. A prisoner sits cross-legged on the cold stone floor, his head resting on his chest. The dark skin on his hands and arms is covered with tiny scars, and his plaited hair is matted with grime and dried blood. Wearily, he raises his head, and your pulse races when you recognize the face of Lord Pydo, warrior magician of the sea. The key to the cell door hangs on a hook nearby. You grab it, insert and twist it in the lock, and then kick the heavy slab of metal. It cracks open and Pydo rushes forward to embrace you.
Thank the gods, you have found me, lone wolf,
he says, his voice filled with emotion.
The Dracarim said you were dead, that your body lay rotting in the Danark, but I never once believed their damn lies.
Pydo is overjoyed to hear that the Torgar gate has fallen and that a battle is raging in the streets above. When you inform him of your mission, he replies with news that raises your hopes of success.
I can help you, lone wolf,
he says, his warrior pride restored by the thought of avenging his cruel imprisonment.
I know where the Lost Stone is being held, and I will take you there.
Stealthily, you follow Pydo through the Dungeons of Torgar, using the shadows to avoid being seen. Ragged columns of slaves stumble along the passages, dragging their tortured, all-starved bodies to and from the work pits. They are beaten, cursed and whipped relentlessly by their Dracarim guards, who seem to delight in their suffering. As difficult as it is to turn away from such cruelty and suffering, you know you will be quickly overwhelmed if you try to intervene. Your mission must come first. You emerge from a corridor into the shadows of a circular chamber, where a staircase ascends to a pair of huge triangular iron doors guarded by a squad of cracked Dracarim Death Knights. A tingling sensation electrifies your skin as your senses detect the presence of the lore stone somewhere behind those doors. Suddenly, an alarm bell fills the chamber with a deafening clangor. The Death Knights begin to descend the stairs, and your stomach churns with the fear that you have been detected. If you have the Magnakai discipline of divination, we do. The alarm bell signifies that the entrance to the tower is under attack. Adamus and his army have reached the center of the city, and they are now fighting their way down into the dungeons in an attempt to free the slaves. The Death Knights are hurrying to their battle stations, unaware of your presence in this chamber. The Death Knights tramp past your hiding place and hurry out of the chamber. Pydo breathes a sigh of relief as the sound of their heavy footfalls is quickly lost in the noise of the alarm bell. Only when you are sure you are alone do you leave your hiding place and approach the triangular doors. You pull a metal bar that is set into the wall, and the huge lead-lined doors rumble open to reveal an incredible sight. Before you stands a dome chamber, its seating crisscrossed with gantries of frosted red iron. At its center there is a circular black pit around which there are gathered small groups of ghoulish creatures, clad in transparent robes and masks. Angled upwards from the floor are several slender crystal rods that glow with green fire. They pour forth constant streams of pencil-thin light, which focus at a point directly above the center of the pit. Your eyes are drawn to this point, for here you can see the 3 remaining lore stones of Nixidor, the objects of your quest, held suspended in a ball of flickering green flame. The harsh clang of the alarm bell, and the sudden sight of you silhouetted in the doorway, have startled the ghoulish creatures. They slink away from the pit and escape through an archway, leaving you and Pydo alone in the chamber. Cautiously, you approach the edge of the pit and look down into its midnight depths. No light penetrates the blackness, and no sounds can be heard in this seemingly bottomless abyss. Above you, the lore stones hang suspended in a ball of green flame, beyond reach from the ground, but within a hand's breadth of the gantries which crisscross above the pit. 3 options. You can climb a gantry and attempt to retrieve the lore stones, examine the crystal rods, or search your way of retrieving the lore stones from below. I think examining the rods would be the best first course of action for doing something rash. You sense that the crystal rods are generating a powerful charge of negative energy. The lore stones are being bombarded with this energy in the hope that eventually it will destroy them. If you are to retrieve the lore stone safely, you must first shut off this power. However, by doing so, you will remove the means by which they are being kept suspended in the air, and they will fall into the pit. You ponder the problem for several minutes before you hit upon a solution. You notice a spot where a gantry passes directly over the ball of green flames. If you can crawl to this location, you will be able to cup your hands below the lore stones. Pydo could then destroy the crystal rods and the lore stones, freed of the energy beams, will drop straight into your hands. It is a bold plan, but you feel confident that it will succeed. Sounds like a good plan actually. The corroded iron gantry shakes violently as you inch your way nearer to the flaming green ball. Once you are in position, you call out to Pydo, and one by one, he smashes the crystal rods. As each rod is broken, its beam disappears and the fireball grows weaker. The golden light of the lore stones begins to radiate through the evil green flames, and when Pydo has destroyed half of the rods, one of them tips and falls into your waiting hands. Immediately, a wave of energy courses through your body. It sharpens your thoughts and perceptions and fills you with renewed strength and vigor. You shout encouragement to your companion. He raises his head to reply, but his words are drowned out by a harsh and terrible voice. Vengeance is mine, lone wolf, booms the thunderous voice. Terror strikes deep in your heart when you turn to see the ghastly form of Dark Lord Nahag. His loathsome form fills the archway through which his minions escape when you first entered this chamber. A ghastly rasping laugh echoes from his fly-like head as he raises the black crystal and points it at the gantry. The vow I gave at Tau shall be fulfilled. Now I shall destroy you and the lore stone. There is a deafening crack, and a bolt of blue lightning strikes from the stone held in his pincer-like claw. It shears through the rusty metal, and you are peppered with red-hot iron splinters. As the shockwave hits the wagon ball of fire, the two lore stones are sent tumbling into the black abyss. Then a second bolt from the black stone tears the gantry in two, and with the ghastly laugh of Dark Lord Nahag ringing in your ears, you plummet headlong into the icy cold pit. You have fallen into a portal of total darkness, a shadow gate that leads to the twilight world of Dejern. The wisdom and strength of the lore stone of Luomi is now a part of your body and spirit. The last remaining lore stones are still within your reach, but your descent into the Dejern heralds the beginning of a new and deadly episode of the Magnakai quest. If you have the courage of a true Kai Master, the supernatural wonders and horrors of the Twilight Plain await you in the penultimate Magnakai adventure, entitled The Prisoners of Time. Next week, same time, same channel.